Chris.
Ha ha ha, Heath.
Wow, that's creative. Hey, welcome. This week is not so sad.
That's a relief after the downer last week was.
Yeah, episode 11's gonna actually have some levity.
And that's episode 11 of Mobius Tubes.
Yay.
Being recorded on March 5th, 2019.
Big fanfare.
We're a podcast about video games. Just so listeners are aware, you can write to us at mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter at mobiustubespod.
Because we have some emails today, right?
Yeah, we have one very long email, actually.
Nice. Anyway, I will start things off. But the news is all that's interesting to me. Like we can talk about here. Let's talk about the game that I played, because I decided to follow up Tetris 99 with another sequel. I guess I could call Tetris 99 a sequel, even though the number doesn't really refer to its iteration in the series.
The 99th Tetris in the Tetris franchise.
That's
Who
the
knows?
joke.
There might be that many at this point. There's been so many.
It's probably I'd be shocked if there were at least 50 different releases of Tetris, excluding like language versions, like localized versions. Anyway,
What is there to localize in Tetris?
oh, that's true. What am I talking about? This week for the podcast, I bit the bullet, the revolver bullet, and played Red Dead Redemption 2.
Which you've been kind of chipping away at a little bit.
Yes, because it's a mammoth of a game, and I will most certainly not finish it by next episode, but I'm going to try. The good news is it's like Red Dead Redemption 1, in which I'm still digging the setting, digging the characters, and I'm finding a way to make it fun for me, because the way other people play Red Dead is up to them, I guess you could say. The bad news is it's so slow, and we knew this, right? From the reviews, they said how it was glacial at best.
Right. And when you say it's slow, are you referring to how the plot is progressing, or like physically controlling the game is slow? What do you mean exactly?
There's not really any load screens, but there is animations, as if that's a bad thing. It takes so long for you to start running after you walk, and in your camp you can't run. It's like running indoors in Pokemon. You can't do it. I'm referring to when you skin an animal, it takes forever. I'm not super fast at the weapon wheel just yet. I wish it were more like Fallouts or The Last of Us, where you just use the D-pad on the controller to like set your weapons. It's so much faster than the weapon wheel. Make sure when you play it, because I know I can hear your review of it while I'm playing it. Make sure you have like your phone in hand or something to occupy your time during the uncontrolled. Well, you can control them, but if you switch to like the cinematic camera for the long swaths of horse riding with the dialogue, there needs to be some form of escape from the game, which is sad to say, because you spend however much money on this, and it's a game of the year contender, but it's also very sparse for content and areas.
That's interesting. It's a game I'm definitely 100% going to play someday. I'm kind of playing the waiting game because I want to play this on PC, although there has been no PC release announced. And the original Red Dead Redemption never did come to PC, but my suspicion is based on the fact of how big GTA 5 was when that port did arrive on the personal computer. I'm thinking Rockstar does the same thing with this, maybe 12 months from now. So it's not on my immediate docket here. I have a question for you though, Heath. The protagonist of Red Dead Redemption 2, Arthur Morgan. How much would you say you're connecting with him, and how much is he resonating with you compared to, say, John Marston from the previous game?
Arthur's great. He's got a lot to like about him. I played one mission recently where you go to the saloon, and it's like the drinking sequence. He gets all wobbly, and at one point it switches to first person, and you're like swinging open the double doors of the saloon while he's like tripping on alcohol, and it's a lot of fun to hear him call for his friend. And in that vision, all of the character models look like his friend, even though they're like in dresses if it's like a woman. And then after you like use the left trigger to greet the character, it's at that point that he realizes, oh, this is actually a lady. I really like Arthur. He's got the whole I'm going to tell Dutch not to kill you yet. The loose cannon, former ruthless outlaw kind of deal, but he's still honorable, I guess. Compared to John Marston, this might just be a nostalgia, but I think the revenge angle just made him a more interesting character because it was always like a means to an end. Whereas Arthur Morgan, his primary objective is like, let's just go west, which is not as pulling as these three people took my wife and son. So no complaints from the cast. I'm more just irritated by some of the controls are kind of wonky too. Like, those random chance encounters that you're just like galloping on the dirt road, and then this is a stick up, and you're supposed to like immediately hit the brakes and not move, otherwise the NPCs will start shooting you. Or not the NPCs, but just like the enemies. I didn't brake hard enough, and so they just immediately unloaded into me, and it's like, oh, come on guys, I tried.
Got it. Just so I have some sort of idea of how deep you are into the game, I think it's divided up into acts. Do you know what act you're in?
I'm in chapter 2. I got off of Tutorial Mountain, and then I'm still working to rebuild the camp. There's still stuff in the first town. The first town in Red Dead 1 was Armadillo, I think. The first town in this one is Valentine, and I still have lots to do in Valentine. I haven't met all the strangers they got there. But one thing I wanted to say about just me playing, is this an RPG? I forgot to meet our definition. Because everyone's Arthur Morgan's going to be the same when it gets to the end, right?
Having not played the game, I would assume so.
Okay, so it's not an RPG, but still. One thing I'll say, while I was playing, I was reminiscing of a time when I was playing Skyrim and thinking like, oh man, if I had enough gold, I could buy Breeze Home, that house where you can, in Whiterun, that you can buy.
Yes.
And I was so eager to get money to buy that so I could put all these dragon bones that I can't quite sell yet because my speech level sucks, so I wouldn't get much money from selling it to the merchant, and that would get me more gold to buy the bigger sword so I can go kill the dungeon boss easier so I can get the Fusroda. And you know how in Skyrim, I would just map out in my head what's like the best way to get the biggest number for whatever I wanted, whether it's carrying capacity or DPS or things like that. You know what I'm talking about? That itch where it's like, ooh, if I can get my defense up, I can withstand the heavy hits from this guy in Fallout, and then that'll let me beat the synth that gives you the laser. Things like that. In this game, I've yet to map out. The challenges are still there, but it's so nebulous. Like, I'm not really sure the mechanics and how they work necessarily. There's hunting and there's strangers to find. You got to bring supplies back to the camp. But because I can't design brain roadmap of, okay, I'm going to help Dutch and he's going to get me in touch with La Rosa, who's going to teach me how to use Deadeye so I can get the Mauser pistol. Do you remember the Mauser pistol from Red Dead 1? That was the best gun. It was the pistol with like...
describe it to me.
It had a crazy long magazine. So it wasn't like a revolver. It was just this like super fast handgun that you got towards the end when you're working with the FBI or the would-be FBI. There's no roadmap in Red Dead 2 that I can see where I can get the thing that I want. So I'm mostly just going with the flow in this game, which is fine, but it's not the experience that I got from Skyrim, Fallout, like the big number go up. Oh, I'm so much like the closest thing to that in Red Dead 2 is leveling up my horse. Cause if you spend a lot of time with your horse and you don't just like kill it by jumping off a canyon, it'll get really fast and it'll improve its horse cores. Say it with me, everybody. Horse cores. Your horse cores include like the stamina of it and the health of it. That's probably the most rewarding thing in the game so far. Who cares about your own vitality? Just make your horse super fast. But aside from that, I'm missing that. I wish I could put a name to it. This just sort of like RPG future self get rich quick scheme that I crave from these video games that I'm just not getting from the sequel.
I see. So maybe not quite enough in terms of meaningful progression systems incorporated into the game to keep you with a constant sense of motivation to keep playing.
Right. I can see how if I hunt this many armadillos, my tracking will get better for like the bigger things that I might want to hunt. But that's just me manufacturing a situation that I haven't found that in the game.
Okay, fair enough.
You'll still love it though.
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance I will.
You're going to be like, oh, you didn't love it when you rescued Lenny from the burning barn? And I'll be like, yeah, that's fine. Eh.
I played a couple games this past week.
What did you play, Chris?
I have a short update on Wargroove, just because I rolled credits. I finished the main single-player campaign.
Cool.
And I'll put finished in quotes, because after finishing the credits, it teases me with this little epilogue mission that I have not unlocked yet, so I can't speak to what's in this epilogue mission. The game has this star system where upon completing any campaign mission, depending on how quickly you complete it in terms of the number of turns you take, or maybe how many of your units you lose during the fight, it'll give you a ranking 1, 2, or 3 stars, and it's constantly tracking your total number of stars. And I need to hit 100 stars to unlock this epilogue mission. And I'm currently sitting at low 70s, so I'm not quite there. What I'm going to have to do is dive into the puzzle mode, and you can earn stars that way by completing the puzzle challenges, or dive into the arcade mode.
Yeah, these sound really tacked on, though, compared to like the main thing.
Sure, yeah, they're definitely like the side dishes.
It's like a weird prerequisite.
Yeah, it's a good incentive to like explore all the different avenues available to you to play this game. I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to hit 100 stars. But what I will say about the main campaign, excluding the epilogue, that final mission was interesting. Good and bad things in it. I'm not going to give you explicit specifics because the final mission of the game, I think, is something you could spoil. Maybe not from like a narrative standpoint, but there's some cool mechanics they switch up on you and introduce during this last mission that to explain them on the show right here would rob you of the surprise. So I don't want to do that.
Okay.
What I will say, though, is during this final mission, they empower you with a way stronger force than you've ever had a chance to command throughout the whole Wargroove campaign thus far.
Oh, your force is super strong.
Yes, your force is incredibly strong, and because of that, they throw what initially seems like this insurmountable challenge against you. So it's like an unstoppable object meeting an immovable...
Yeah, unstoppable force meets an immovable object.
Yeah, thank you. And in addition to these huge stakes they present, they also introduce a couple mechanics that you don't see anywhere else in the game into this specific fight, which force you to have considerations that you would never had to account for in earlier Wargroove missions. It also, I won't say how, but normally when you lose a game of Wargroove, it's because the tides have slowly shifted against you. You've lost your momentum. Now the opposing force, their economy is stronger, and their engine is just ramping up higher and higher, and you're never going to catch up. But in this final mission, you can kind of lose at the drop of a hat, which adds a whole heaping of tension to the game, but also could lead to some frustration. Frustration that I fell victim to, actually, where I learned a very painful lesson in Wargroove, which it's funny that I learned this during the final mission of the main game. But apparently, as you play the game normally, every time you mouse over an enemy that you're about to attack, it'll show you the outcome of how much damage your two units will do to inflict upon one another, listed as a percentage of their health. So you mouse over, your knight is charging at this footman. It shows you're about to deal 80% damage to him, and he's going to hit you back for 10% damage. But what I never knew until now is that those damage values are not set in stone. They have a plus or minus about 5% swing to them, which is just purely determined by RNG. So what happened during this final mission was the enemy had this siege engine, a trebuchet, which, kind of vulnerable, but it's a glass cannon. It can do a whole lot of damage from range. And the only thing standing between me and this trebuchet was an enemy pikeman standing in front of it, blocking my access to this trebuchet.
Uh-huh.
So the plan was move one of my units forward, kill the pikeman, which will free up the space to kill this trebuchet. I mouse over the pikeman. I see
gonna do big damage.
100% damage. He is not going to hit back at all.
Awesome.
I say, great.
Should we go through with it, Caesar?
Arf. Caesar says yes.
All right, I'm gonna hit this pike guy for big damage.
Yeah, do big damage, but he survives with 2% health.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. We'll hit him with the other guy, right?
I only had one available hex or one available square next to this pikeman, so I had one and only one shot to kill him, and I wasted it.
Uh-oh.
So now I can't reach this trebuchet.
We'll just get him on the next turn.
It ends up being able to fire on its turn and actually take out one of my commanders just barely. And when a commander dies, it's instant game over. So I lost the final mission about halfway through, which was probably 30 minutes, and I had to start over.
Oh, that's so disappointing. Game of the year.
I put the game down for that night.
Yikes.
When that happened. But that's kind of on me for playing through the entire game and not realizing there was a chance for things to go awry.
Well, that's the same way in Civilization, right? It estimates the amount of damage you'll do. And actually, sometimes it'll say that, they'll have a magic pixel of health left. But you go through with it and it'll actually end up killing the barbarian, and you'll be like, it worked to my benefit.
There were definitely instances where it kind of showed that I wasn't going to quite kill a guy, and I would end up getting the kill anyway. And in those instances, I never questioned it. even though there was clearly RNG in play. I just thought I was getting like lucky or something, or a calculation was like rounding up. I don't know what was going through my head. But that's about it from Wargroove. Still heartily recommend it.
Because now you've gotten 100 stars, right?
No, I'm still working up to that magic 100 number.
Okay, but clearly, would you say that whoever has 100 stars is clearly the better player and would definitely not lose in a 1v1?
That's probably fair to say, yeah.
Okay.
But you have 0 stars at the moment, right, Heath?
I don't need stars to take out chuckle chumps is what they call it at the developer's office.
Okay, moving on. Just an aside, I've been playing more Assassin's Creed Origins, but I don't have much of an update for you. It's a good game. The gameplay loop is compelling. I'm not bored of it yet, but we'll see. We'll see if it sees me all the way through to its lengthy conclusion.
How many more daughters have been kidnapped?
Yeah, there have been plenty more kidnappings. It's pretty comical, actually.
I know.
Which brings me to my new initiative. Well, not a new initiative. It started on episode 10, how I'm trying to bring a short game to each episode for variety's sake.
Oh, yeah. You call these like quick bits or something.
Yeah. I brought Firewatch last week, and continuing with the walking simulator trend, I played 2017's What Remains of Edith Finch.
What is? Oh.
Have you heard of this game?
Would I know it if I saw it?
Maybe. Most of the artwork for the game shows this crazy looking house with like a twisting tower that goes up high into the sky. This is a game developed by Giant Sparrow, who also made The Unfinished Swan.
Wait, so the game is titled The Unfinished Swan. It wasn't canned during development, right?
Yeah, the name Unfinished is in the title.
Gotcha.
I see what you were saying.
That's confusing.
And now their follow-up, What Remains of Edith Finch. And here's what I'll say, Heath. I think this is my new favorite walking simulator.
Interesting.
Goodbye, Stanley Parable. Goodbye, Gone Home.
Why?
There's a new cool kid on the block, and her name is Edith Finch. Obviously, walking simulators, the main appeal is their narrative, so there will not be spoilers here. You can rest easy. But I'll give you the elevator pitch to try to sell you on this game. You star the titular Edith Finch, a young woman who is returning home to her childhood house after it has been left to her in a will, because she's part of the Finch family, and this is told to you right off the bat. There's this kind of assumption that the Finches as a family are cursed, where members pretty often they die prematurely, they die young, they don't reach old age. It's hard to say whether this curse is something that's actually exists and it's supernatural, or if it's just a whole string of unhappy tragedies. Hard to say, and it doesn't come out and like give you an answer or anything. That's not really relevant to the story. But you're this young woman, you return home to this crazy house in the Pacific Northwest.
Spooky.
What's crazy about it is, I mentioned earlier, there's tons of cool images of it. It's a big house with like towers being built that are like, they don't look very structurally sound, going up way high into the sky. And she's walking through each of the rooms that used to belong to her family members and have been left untouched for years. And every time you dive into a room, you're going to get a quick vignette of the family member who the room belonged to. And these vignettes, exploring the house itself, that's like the through line, the central thread tying everything together. But it allows the developers to introduce all sorts of these wild tangents that are specific to each family member. And by tangents, I mean, it'll completely vary like the entire artistic style of the game. And you'll like dive into different genres of game almost. These are like short little stories told to you, and they're usually sad, but they run a wide spectrum of tones as well. And They're all very memorable and unique stories, and there's definitely like more often than not they'll pull on your emotions.
I'll say what I like. I've just been watching it a little bit. What I like about the art style that you mentioned is this floaty text kind of thing. Is there a narrator?
Right. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. Your player character, Edith Finch, she's narrating most of the time, and every single line of dialogue kind of appears in the environment very organically, which is a really cool aesthetic to have.
It's like Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Conviction. Did you ever play that game?
No, I never played a Splinter Cell, actually.
That's a good franchise just from the one that I played. Their art style is such that all the text is in universe, kind of. So, it'll say, breach the door along the concrete wall that it's built into. Or, like, knock out the guard on like the carpet that he's standing on, sort of like that. So that's what I'm getting out of Edith Finch. Edith Finch should cameo in with Sam Fisher in the next Splinter Cell.
Also, just like, I don't know about if this is something that appeals to you, but like going into someone's house and for the first time and exploring it, I think that's like a really cool thing to do. Because like where a person lives, that's like
wait, what?
Most...
Like in, it sounds a little invasive to me, Chris. But I'll let you finish.
I'm not talking about breaking and entering here. I mean like a person's home, their dwelling, the place
so
they go
fun
every
to
night.
Be in. Says me,
it's
Chris.
like the most. If a place could be the most intimate reflection of a person, the home would be that place. And to see like what a person values and like how they organize the place they spend most of their time. It's cool. The houses, it's like this is probably not a house that could potentially exist in the real world. There's lots of secret passages and things to discover, and that's very entertaining. There's something really cool that I have to mention about one of the short stories about one of the certain family members in particular. It does something with the control scheme during this particular story that it illustrates what it's like to be in a daydream so accurately that I was blown away that they came up with how to convey that using controls in a video game.
Cool.
Yeah, and I kind of like slipped into a trance doing it. But I think I'm starting to ramble here. But suffice to say,
did you mention when this was released?
Yeah, it came out in 2017, and it was one of the big indie darlings of the year. Lots of people like it. Lots of people recommend it.
Okay.
It was actually given away as one of the free games on Epic's Game Store maybe about a month ago.
Oh.
Which Epic Games, their store, they give away like games people would actually want to play for free without even needing to sign up for a subscription. So good on them for doing that. I don't necessarily agree with other business practices they're doing, like yanking Metro Exodus off of Steam and not allowing people to purchase it there for a year. But as far as their free game selection goes, they're picking winners.
I'm sorry, Metro Exodus is an Epic. It was made by Epic Games, and they pulled it from their competitors' library catalog.
It actually is not developed by Epic Games, made by a completely different third-party studio out in Eastern Europe, I think. And Epic Games basically, presumably, we don't know the specifics of the deal, kind of approached this developer, courted them, gave them like a lucrative deal to say, hey, make your game exclusive to our store on PC, and we'll give you this good deal or this money up front, something like that.
Okay. That sounds less nefarious than what I thought it was.
At the same time, the game had been available for purchase on Steam for like weeks at this point, and then it was delisted.
Oh, boo, Epic Games. I'm never playing Fortnite again. Just because I've already
People
found
who pre-ordered it on Steam, though, those were honored, but if you didn't pre-order before this deal went through, you've got to wait a year before it comes back to Steam.
Very unepic.
Yeah, that's everything I've played this past week.
On to the news. Time for the exciting news. Chris, I got one question for you.
Hit me.
Are you Scrabble Squad or Grookey Gang?
All right, you lost me. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Pokemon got announced.
Oh, are those the names of the starters?
Okay, so yeah, forget that White Rabbit. Who cares? It's the worst fire starter of all of them. It's not even red. You got Sobble. I mispronounced it the first time. Sobble is this sad-looking water lizard who's probably gonna evolve into something big chungus looking. And then Grookey is one of the best. All right, let me just backpedal. They announced the new titles for the 8th generation of Pokemon. You got Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Bicycle Helmet. Which one are you gonna buy, Chris?
I haven't made a decision yet. It's not actually
the joke
Bicycle
I made
Helmet,
is
though.
it's actually called Pokemon Shield, but who would buy Shield? It's such a weak name.
It's definitely the hipster version.
Yeah, there's always a hipster version, right? Like Moon was the hipster version, and then White, and then I don't know which was the hipster between Ruby and Sapphire.
Maybe Sapphire? I was taking a step in the dark.
Then that makes me a hipster. Anyway, so that's all fine and dandy. It's gonna take place in Britain, which is fun. Here, let's do a little game. All right.
Sure.
Red and blue. Okay, so if I say red and blue, you say yellow, right? Because that was that was like the third. You know the pattern that they go through. If I say gold and silver, you say, is it crystal?
Platinum?
No, I thought it was crystal. Pokemon expert Chris.
I do not know my Pokemon titles.
All right, well, let's keep it going. We are neck deep in this bit. Ruby and Sapphire. Emerald. Yeah. Diamond and Pearl. I don't think they've made a third thing for that. Or no, maybe that one is Platinum. Platinum's real, right? You've heard of it?
No idea.
Okay, well, let's just go with it. What else have they freaking done? I think that's
X and Y?
Well, yeah, they've done X and Y, but there's no Z. And they've done Sun and Moon, but there's no, like, Meteor. Sword and Shield.
Trebuchet?
Gun! Have you seen this?
Gun. No.
Let me text you a picture. Spanish newspaper, Pokemon gun. I know your phone's on Do Not Disturb, but just look at this article. So for those of you who don't know, Pokemon games usually come out in pairs. And that's to, I don't know, there's no particular reason. It's just to make it distinguish, like, two distinguishable products. They each have their own exclusive Pokemon in them. And then
I was under the impression it was to encourage trading because you couldn't get them all with one version.
Duh, yeah, gotta catch them all. That's what they say. So yeah, and then they'll release like a third one a little bit later to just be like, here, have them all, you gluttons. And so a Spanish newspaper reports that Pokemon Gun is also coming to Switch.
I see the image.
Doesn't it look real?
I would have fallen for it.
Pokemon Gun. Gotta get them all. Blat, blat.
That is not very family friendly for what is essentially a children's franchise.
I will buy Pokemon Gun for all the young people in my family. Just for the meme. Anyway, it's more likely that this newspaper outlet that printed this picture was just bamboozled by a fan art, and this is most definitely fake.
Agreed. And the fact that this was kind of a pretty big surprise because Nintendo already hit us with the February Direct earlier in the month, and then they came out with this shorter Pokemon-focused one at the end of February.
It had to coincide with the 25th anniversary of Pokemon, right?
Ah, that makes a lot of sense.
Right, and they released the trailer for Detective Pikachu, too.
Yeah, got it.
These are things I know.
Thank you.
So,
and this provides us with a perfect segue to actually answer an email because we received something Pokemon related.
Uh-oh, do it.
This comes from Nathan, a longtime Mobius Tubes writer. First of all, he says, "Hey guys, glad I was cleared of any leech-like comparisons." Nate has several questions that we'll sprinkle into this episode, the first of which is coming up right now. He asks, what is your favorite Pokemon game and your favorite Pokemon? Heath, take it away.
Well, I've only played like 5 Pokemon games in my life. I started with Sapphire and then Emerald, which were Gen 3, both. And then I went to Pokemon Coliseum and XD Gale of Darkness on the GameCube. And that's as far as I got until I like Pokemon Go, but that doesn't count. So I'm a Gen 3 loser, which is definitely uncommon for most people. And I know you're gonna be like, I haven't done anything. So I makes me feel a little better. But I gotta say that my favorite.
Now hold your horses, Heath. Because if you had asked me 2 hours ago what my favorite Pokemon game was, I would have told you I have never played a Pokemon game. But that fact has since changed.
Oh?
Because right immediately before starting recording this, I booted up Pokemon Let's Go Eevee.
Oh.
And I made it 5 minutes in before it was time to start recording episode 11.
What a curious pick.
So by default, I guess that's my favorite. And I guess spoiler, on episode 12, I'll probably have more to say.
Yeah, probably. But, what a weird... You're going to have the weirdest impression of Pokemon. Like, you're going to play...
Yeah.
You're going to play Sword or Shield, maybe. We'll see. It doesn't look... It looks really slow. The original Pokemon games, you could just blitz through them so fast, and that's why there's speed runs of people doing them in like 2.5 hours. But your impression of Pokemon is gonna be like, what? I have to fight these wild ones? Why can't I just throw the ball?
Right, because I think in the version I'm playing, there are no random encounters. You can avoid the wild Pokemon. You see them in the overworld and can run away.
Yeah, I count down to when you get killed by a wild one and you try to run away and can't escape, and you lose all your progress because you never was taught the lesson to save when you were a kid.
Yeah, so I'm going to have a very warped perspective here, but I'm eager to dip my toes in and see what all the fuss is about. So stay tuned.
So is your favorite Pokemon Eevee?
That's the only one I've met so far.
Well, good. That's a good. It's fine. It's not the most despicable. At least it's not a legendary. If your favorite Pokemon's a legendary, you're lame. My favorite.
So what's
or a
yours?
starter.
I interrupted you.
Well, okay. I should say what my favorite game is. I also left out Fire Red and Leaf Green, but those were also released during Generation 3. My favorite Pokemon game is Pokemon Coliseum, just because I know that the more recent Pokemon games have the 3D. The 3D Pokemon games are so much more immersive, if you can believe that, just because of the cinematic element to it. I have nothing against sprites, but I think just zooming in the double battles in Coliseum and just actually seeing the people on the battlefield made it way more enjoyable, because sometimes Pokemon can get a little grindy, but in Coliseum, I couldn't get enough of it, which is why I also loved XD when it came out. But the story in XD is not as good as the story in Coliseum, or just felt not as original. So Coliseum's my favorite by far. Please make a sequel to that game before you go back and, I don't know, remaster like Pearl or whatever came after Gen 3. My favorite Pokemon, I thought about this at one point. I was going to go with like a joke answer like Sudowoodo. If I have to think about it, it's not going to be funny. We'll go with Pupitar. That's the metal one. Or let's go with...
You could be saying anything right now and I'd believe you.
Let's go with Kakuna with a tie. Have you seen that?
No.
Google Kakuna, Kakuna with a tie. It's just making fun of the sprite's design.
I found the image you're talking about.
Yeah, let's go with that one.
Yeah, once you see that tie design, you can't unsee it. It's pretty blatant.
It's funny. So this was Nate's question, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, I defy anyone listening to this podcast to tell me that the other Pokemon games were better than Coliseum and XD. Maybe like the introduction of new moves and new abilities adds a little more longevity to certain games, but I'm doing Mount Battle from 0 to 100, and I'm not stopping because I'm so digging the cinematic style that was Pokemon in the early 2000s. I think it's the early 2000s.
I believe so. Okay, shall we move on to the next news item?
Yeah. I'm before I get anxious. Moving around at the speed of sound. Have you seen the Sonic? Okay, so Chris, one of our first Mobius Tubes moments. Should I make that a
Was
thing?
that a combination of Mobius and moments?
Yeah, one of our favorite moments was our live reaction to the Sonic the Hedgehog film poster, right?
Yes, those hairy legs.
Right. So I matched your reaction to that, and I introduced to you the Sonic film style guide.
Tell me more.
The film's style guide, and this refers to branding and merchandise, just to make sure it's like consistent with the film's tone and making sure that like all the assets are the same. It got leaked to the public, and the public already had their fun with the poster, so of course they're going to rip into this style guide. If you see it, it's more of what you've seen from the poster. These weird proportions. His eyes don't look the way they should. You know how Sonic's eyes are kind of this nebulous white thing that like merges in the middle?
Yeah, that's right. They're kind of like connected, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's really easy to see in the style guide that his eyes are separate and it looks like an abomination. I'm going to read a tweet from one of my favorite accounts. Okay, here we go. This is from the Raimi Ismail, or that's his name. Folks, there's good news and bad news. The good news is that this looks like a rather well-designed style guide with clear and legible reading flow, exhaustive documentation, and examples in a solid layout and color scheme. And then the tweet doesn't list the bad news because the picture says it all. It's just the actual design itself. So, and another tweet I read, it describes it perfectly. This Sonic design looks like pharmaceutical ad characters. Do you know what I'm talking about? Kind of that Flonase, friggin' Mucinex, that Booger Man.
Oh my gosh, that kind of computer animation.
It's Sonic is looking right at you, and you know he's like, ask your doctor if blah 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 is right for you. And it was so
side effects
spot
may
on.
include.
Exactly. So please send me your Sonic the Hedgehog film memes because it's clearly it's going to be a never-ending fountain. This film probably doesn't come out until the summer. It's already going to be like meme of the year. We're just going to run it into the ground. No pun intended. Running.
Gotta go fast.
Next news.
To the bargain bin.
To the bargain bin. Shout out to Endemic Studios, the makers of Plague Inc. Did you ever play Plague Inc. on your phone?
No. Is that the game where you're trying to spread a disease as far as possible?
Yes, you play as a virus, and the map starts all green and whatnot, and you pick your country of origin to infect, and then you're just spending upgrade points to make your virus more resilient to antibiotics and making it transmissible to rats. And you win the game if you eradicate the human race. But the more symptomatic your virus is, the more the public's going to know about it, and the cure effort starts. So it's kind of this, build your engine, but not too fast strategy game that a lot of people really dig. And it got ported to PC, and there was a petition to add anti-vaxxers to the game as a buff to your virus. So imagine you're playing the game, right? And rather than investing your points into, transmissible by water, you could convince the public what these anti-vaxxers are doing. And if you click that upgrade, infectivity of children skyrockets, and it's just a brilliant way of Endemic Studios doing this public service, just pointing out how stupid anti-vaxxers are. So everyone, just big claps all around to Endemic and the folks that came up with that petition. Spot on memery. Everybody reinstall Plague Inc. I will see you on the map.
That is a golden opportunity for them to capitalize on. So the petition is successful. They're going to go ahead and patch this in?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and it's getting
awesome.
Really bad reviews, the game, because the anti-vaxxers are like, you don't know, vaccines do cause polio. And you're like, oh my God.
Having played the game, Heath, what role are you taking on when you play? Are you the virus? Are you someone who is trying to spread the virus?
You are
Do you know the answer?
Yeah, you are an omniscient, personality-less virus. There's no morality to it. It's just you pick. You can actually choose to be like a virus, bacteria, fungus, like any sort of a bioweapon. And yeah, there's no rhyme or reason. It's just kill them all, Peter. Do you know that meme?
I don't.
Google kill them all, Peter. It's a
wait, let me guess. Is this the llamas with hats?
No, that's like that Charlie thing, right? It's a Sam Raimi Spider-Man 1 meme where instead of Uncle Ben being like, with great power, it's just the subtitle crudely says, kill them all, Peter. And there's not, you really shouldn't look it up because I just nailed it. But
yeah,
when it's said unironically, and whenever, if like Kratos is like, blah, who killed my wife? And it's like, you did, Kratos. That's when it's appropriate.
Got it. Is that about it?
Well,
for the news?
So much news to talk about, but only so many slots, Chris. And I'm going to have to say that we are not going to have you in episode 12. We are replacing you with, what the heck is it called? Like Unbirth. What's the game that replaced Melee? That's the joke.
I was kind of expecting that Melee was just getting replaced by Smash Bros. Ultimate.
No. Oh, you don't know. Oh, okay, good. So, here's the EVO 2019 lineup. because you're totally right. It's everything you expect. It's Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Dragon Ball Z, Tekken, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Soul Calibur, and then, right, so we have 3 spots left. Assuredly, every fighting game boy was thinking like, oh, Melee's gotta be in there, right? Melee had like 200,000 concurrent viewers in last year's Evo. They gave it to Samurai Showdown, Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, and that's like an anime one, right?
I know about it because there are Persona 4 characters in it.
And Shovel Knight's in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow.
and a freaking Binding of Isaac.
No way. They have like obscure indie characters in there?
They
did. Awesome.
They did a cool thing. And then, get this for a title. Under Night in Birth XL ST.
Now there's a fighting game I know nothing about.
Yes. Apparently it's like a really well-designed fighting game, and it has a loyal community, but it definitely, the hosts of Evo were definitely sick of Melee's persistence and wanted to give a slot to a game that hasn't had its moment in the spotlight. But it just feels weird that one of the most popular football teams is not in the Super Bowl, right?
Right.
It feels like if the Patriots aren't invited to the Super Bowl, even though they're like winning all the games, but the ref was like, no, you've been here too long. It's time for like the Detroit Lions to do a sports.
Melee was still drawing a whole bunch of viewership, a whole lot of attention. I think, maybe I'm just guessing here, I think the only 2 games probably viewed more at Evo than Melee are Dragon Ball FighterZ last year and Street Fighter. Other than that,
Mortal
Melee is
Kombat,
like a pretty big deal.
But yeah, I mean, we don't have a dog in this fight because we're not Melee scrub lords.
No,
but
I'm not super into fighting games.
Right.
If I had to guess, I'd say this is a command coming down the chain from Nintendo saying they don't.
No, this is wrong. No, there was like a live stream of the 2 owners or founders of Evo, and they were all like wishy-washy, reluctant, being like, "Oh, but Melee," and then the other one's like, Melee had a good run, but wow. And there's like a compilation of every Melee personality of the current era being like, F you, just let us die. And they had the audacity, the Evo folks, they had the audacity to be like, here's some of our favorite Melee at Evo moments. And it's just like, so this is the goodbye montage. Just let us die. So it was really funny to watch all of these ungrateful Melee people chastise the tournament that made them. I look forward to the Melee tournament that will be happening in some hotel room. That's all the news I got.
Right, yeah. So, wait. Someone has just entered the room. I need to hear this. Really? That many?
What?
It's only been a month. Okay, I guess I'll talk about this.
What are you doing?
All right, one of our field correspondents just reported in, Heath, and we call this the Apex Watch. Apparently, now just about a month after release, Apex Legends now has 50 million registered users who have played the game.
And I bet they got to 50 faster than Fortnite did.
I think that's nearly certain because, like, if you count when Fortnite launched initially, it didn't even have Battle Royale in it. That came months later. And no one really cared when it was just Save the World mode, which was kind of like survival, crafting, hold out against waves of non-player enemies.
Right.
Player versus environment. And that was kind of underwhelming and didn't sell so well. It only blew up kind of in early 2018 after the Battle Royale mode was patched in fall of 2017. So yeah, I think Apex Legends had a much more meteoric rise to stardom.
Well,
and we'll see how long this keeps up. Will we hit 75 in another month?
No way. The Apex Watch, is going to continue to rise just with the number of people getting on. I'd be surprised if they reached how many players? I need a Fortnite watch to compare this to. How many players is playing Fortnite right now?
Let's do a fact check. Do you mean right now or like who have ever played it?
Max, yeah. Or maybe current daily average. Yikes. Apparently has more than 80 million monthly players.
Okay. That's less than double what Apex is pulling in.
Wait, I'm getting different numbers. Apex hits 50. Tell me how much Fortnite's at. Ooh, there's like a player count delta. So here's a graph. Fortnite versus Apex Legends registered player count from a decent source. Ooh, okay. So Fortnite has hit at least 200 million since it launched. But like the trajectory, Fortnite hit 50 million players at day 120. Whereas
so that's
Apex hit it at like day 20. Oh my God.
That's like roughly 4 months for Fortnite.
Yeah.
Versus 20 days for Apex.
Yeah. So although I don't think Apex is going to hit 100 for another, I'll say at 100 days. Yeah. It's going to plateau.
Okay. I disagree. I think we're going to be looking at 100 in about 50 days.
Okay.
That's my guess.
That's a good bet. Loser
so
has to
rough,
play.
That's like a month and a half or so.
Okay. The loser has to play whoever's closer in number of days.
Yeah.
What's the bad game again? I already forgot. Radical Heights. Can you play Radical Heights?
I don't know if you can play that.
I'll go to Cliffy B's house.
I love exploring houses.
Oh no. You do. What's the game that we don't like that we could make this bet?
Loser has to go see the Sonic movie in theaters.
Oh my God. Deal. That's perfect. Okay.
And report back to the podcast. I will virtually shake your hand on this bet.
Yes, shaky. All right, we will come back to the what'd you call it? The Apex Watch?
Yeah, the Apex Watch.
Oh, this is my favorite segment because of the stakes.
These are pretty severe stakes, I must add. I find Sonic revolting in general, and this could be like the worst iteration yet.
I agree. Yeah. It's so sad too. For people who don't know, Sonic has had a weird history as just being a design by committee marketing competition for Mario that became a well-loved, kind of the cool, edgy side of video game characters, whereas Mario is always like this jovial, family-friendly one. So that was from its origins, and then it kind of fell off. But the fans really cared about it, and so they made Sonic Mania, which was this return to form. It made Sonic cool again, and it's so amazing how is Sega to blame? Sega is the producers of Sonic. How they just keep wrecking the image of him as a character.
I suppose they would be. It was particularly telling when, in 2017, 2 big Sonic games came out. One made by fans, you just talked about it, Sonic Mania, received super well, got great review scores. And then the Sonic game that came from Sega proper, Sonic Forces, was universally panned as being pretty bad.
Yeah, we said that in unison.
Okay, shall we dive into the email section of the show?
Yep, that was it for news.
Here we go. Nathan wrote us a pretty comprehensive email here. He rapid-fired some questions at us, which we could feel free to incorporate at any point during the show. We already checked off his Pokemon question, and he has 3 remaining ones. So we'll go down the list, see how much we have to say for each of these. This first one, I think you're going to have a pretty interesting answer here, Heath. He's curious to know, what are the specs on our PC gaming setups? So what kind of computers are we rocking here? You have a relatively new one that's quite the behemoth, I might add.
For years, my PC gaming was done on a MacBook Pro that had 16 gigs of RAM, and it was just an i7 quad core, and games like The Walking Dead. It's tough to benchmark because so few games are available on the Mac. Borderlands 2, it gets absolutely throttled when I'm playing on my laptop. Cut to the PC that I have now with 64 gigs of RAM, 12 core processor. Although I'm not sure. I have to partition these cores so the best. I think it overloads the first core and doesn't optimally use all 12. So I gotta go in and work that out myself, I think. I got a big PC. What else? What are the other specs that I could go into? It's got half a terabyte of SSD, and then 3 terabytes of hard drive. What are the specs? I said the
arguably
the processor.
The most important thing for gaming is the GPUs.
Yeah, I got 2 GTX 1080s in tandem though. Right. So
SLI?
Yeah, SLI. That's what it is.
Yeah, so you're cooking with fire.
They get hot. That's
sure.
right.
And that was it's an HP pre-built.
What do you have,
is that
Chris?
Correct?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's an HP Omen X. That's what it is.
Got it. My specs might not be able to hold up against Heath's on paper, but mine has the heart and soul of being a custom-built rig. I made mine in 2015. At the time, it was with a GTX 970, 16 gigs of just regular DDR3 RAM. I have an SSD for the operating system. At what the time was a decent CPU. It's a Core i5-4690K. And I've been chugging along happily with that for many years until 2018. I did my first meaningful upgrade where I took out the 970. It had served me well for 3.5 years so far. And I replaced it with what I currently have, which is a GTX 1080 Ti. I saw it's the RTX line, I think. I saw those announced, was completely underwhelmed, and just bought the 1080 Ti since that was the old flagship card. And I've been happy with it ever since. The CPU is starting to show its age, but I have a slight overclock on that to help compensate. And I do most of my gaming and just general computer usage on a 1440p monitor, which pairs well with the GPU that I have.
Oh, you have a nice monitor.
Yeah.
What's its refresh rate?
It is 144 hertz.
Ooh, that's the good one. Okay, because mine's
super
60.
Smooth.
Dang, I wish I had one of those.
Yeah, so I adore this monitor. It's an Acer. But your rig is also pretty specialized for video editing, right?
Yes, it needs to be that big. It's good. It's good for DaVinci Resolve. It's not super good for Premiere. I need to do certain things to optimally use because it'll overwork itself on cores 1 and 2 and not use 3 through 12. Well, that's not true. It's more on Adobe's end than the computers itself, but I'm happy with it.
Good, yeah. And I'm pleased with mine. I don't need any ray tracing just yet. Okay, that was probably the nerdiest segment of the show we've had so far. Moving on. Nate's next question is a bit more broad. He says, do you guys think that, and he has this in quotes, traditional gamers, unquote, will ever accept mobile games as being a legitimate platform for studios' mainline franchises? And in parentheses, I guess as a jumping on point to this question, he cites Diablo Immortal as a contentious entry in a long-running franchise.
Sorry, the question was, do I think that mobile games deserve a place alongside the console ones?
Maybe not so much if they're deserving. Does he think that the typical core console PC gamers will accept mobile games as being like a legitimate place to release the next mainline entry of a franchise? Will we accept the next Pokemon game not coming out on the Switch or DS, but the next Pokemon game is on your phone? Will we ever accept that?
Oh, that's a perfect example you just did. Because phones are getting bigger. I was about to say, no, console folks and PC folks would never stand the touchpad interface, but for a game as not demanding as Pokemon, and with how big phone screens are, how big is your phone screen?
I'm in the market for a new phone right now.
Me too.
I'm currently rocking an iPhone 5S, which came out in 2013, I believe. The screen is people laugh at it all the time for how small it is, but I always tell them that size isn't what's important. It's how you're able to use it.
My phone screen is 4 inches, and how big is the iPhone XXL, whatever, or as I Google it, it's 5. Oh, it's 6 plus. So already you are surpassing. How big is a Switch's screen? That's probably 8 inches, right? No, a Switch is 6.2 inches, the main unit. So your phone is as big as your Switch, arguably, if you have the big boy phone. True. Well, I mean, without the Joy-Cons on the side.
Got it. Yeah, I thought you literally meant my phone, but no, you're saying like contemporary.
The layperson's, because the layperson has a bigger phone than we do.
Yes.
So we are approaching, figuratively, the video game community is not going to be satisfied with a phone mobile port of these games that require big cinematic screens. I should be telling you that the TV that I'm playing Red Dead on is an itty bitty 22-incher. It needs the 50 plus to get the full experience. I'm sure I'd be much more patient with the dialogue sequences, just riding your horse along some guy, if I was enamored with the surround sound and high definition that I have at home, but I couldn't bring my TV because it wouldn't fit in the dorm. For that reason, just putting it on a mobile device, we're not ready there yet. We have the size to maybe consider. If you were to put Wargroove on a phone, would you be livid?
I think you could make that adaptation work.
Right? Yeah. I'm not but you couldn't put Soul Calibur on there.
So yeah, there's a couple problems inherent to putting games on a phone. One of the problems is becoming less and less of a problem as the screen size grows. And that problem is, in order to interact with a game and tap on the screen and control the game, because it's a touchscreen, every time you tap the screen, you're obscuring part of the game from your vision, which is not the case when you're looking at a monitor or a TV. But I guess as the screens get bigger, every time you have to touch the screen, you're obscuring a smaller and smaller fraction of the game. So that could eventually become not a problem. The main issue I have with mobile gaming is that the interface of playing a game on a touchscreen doesn't lend itself well in terms of like having a very precise, tight gameplay experience, because the controls, you're going to be like, you can't compete with like a physical button press. That's instantaneous, and that's
precise. Yeah,
it's exactly what you want it to do every time. While swiping or tapping on a screen, you're never going to be as accurate doing that. So for certain types of games, that's not really a problem, like Wargroove or any turn-based game, XCOM. Touching on a touchscreen, probably not that annoying. It probably works just as well. But for anything that's like in the action genre or a fighting, you could never play a fighting game on a phone. I don't think you could. Unless you got like one of these third-party controller attachments that probably don't work super great. You don't see people like whipping out their phone and plugging it into some like Switch knockoff controller, right?
No.
That's not something people do.
No. You can maybe play Gang Beasts. You know that fighting game?
Yeah, it's kind of a comedic one.
Yeah, it's very clumsy. You're bashing people into the way of like trains and off of skyscraper window cleaners.
But I agree with Nate, like the actual hardware and specs of phones, they're rapidly catching up to like consoles or contemporary consoles and such. It's but the Switch plays games fine, and it's $300, which is a lot less than most flagship smartphones.
Yeah, that's also weird to think about.
So it's in my eyes, it's mainly the fact of the imprecision of the controls is a problem, and also the current way mobile games are sold on their respective app stores, just because that environment is so ready to accept exploitative monetization methods and tons of microtransactions and timers that limit how much you can play the game. Since all that stuff is present and kind of poisoning the well of mobile games, it doesn't make a person very confident they're going to get like a complete gaming product on one of those stores. Yeah, although they exist, they're out there, but
you almost need like a quality assurance games library to just only feature the ones that would be $60 otherwise.
Right, a good discoverability method could do a lot to alleviate this problem, but
AAA mobile games.
Yeah. I think there will come a time where mainline entries are releasing, maybe not exclusively on smartphones, but maybe simultaneously. It'll be like one platform you have the option to buy them on. This is probably a decade plus away from where we are right now. This is my complete speculation, but I think there'll be a day where there's kind of parity across smartphones being a gaming platform.
Yeah, we'll be playing Apex Legends 2 by that point.
Fortnite is on phones right now.
Oh, gross. Still, like it's a third-person shooter. The accuracy's hard enough on a controller.
Yeah. From what I've heard, it's actually like an acceptable way to play. Not that I would want to do it that way, but for like the layman who just wants to hop in and have some fun, I think it gets the job done.
The lay child, because this is just children.
Yeah, I guess that's more accurate. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with how we covered that question, which leaves us with our very last one from Nate. With the craze of Battle Royale format games, companies are taking games we never would have imagined in this genre and incorporating Battle Royale mechanics, like Tetris 99. What other games would you like to see incorporate some sort of Battle Royale style or game mode to it? It just so happened that Nate's email slipped in through the cracks. It arrived after we recorded episode 10, but before we released it. So we touched on the release of Tetris 99 and Heath's impressions of it before Nate wrote this email. Using that as a jumping
he was
off
like
point.
Ahead of the curve.
Yeah, he was on top of the latest Tetris game.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And with that in mind, he just wants to know what other games we would like to see adapt themselves to implementing Battle Royale.
Twilight Imperium. I want to vote with 99 other people on
the agenda phase.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Chris and I have played many a board game, and one of the most epic meaning like long and invest heavy is Twilight Imperium, because it's got lots of diplomacy and space combat, if you could just say. So, and that game's like 4 to 6 players, right?
Yeah, technically you can go down to 3 players, but you probably don't want to.
Right. You probably also don't want to go up to 99 because people would probably just drop out. And also, how would it work? I just liked the idea of you getting outvoted by dozens of people in the agenda phase. Actual answer?
Also, the dropping out, the players who are dropping out you refer to, they're probably dropping out because they've died from natural causes because the game will last that long.
Of course. Yeah. Actual answer.
I have an actual answer.
Okay, go for it.
And I think it's going to be reality eventually. Maybe a boring answer. I'd like to see Halo's take on Battle Royale, just because, well, Battle Royale typically is a shooter type of game, although not always in the case of Tetris 99. But Halo's one of my favorite shooter franchises. It lends itself well to having large maps with like vehicles. Those are all in the game already. Big Team Battle is kind of approaching the scale of Battle Royale, not quite. But now we just need to incorporate the shrinking circle. That would probably be, I like the mechanics of Halo enough for me to justify like jumping into that. And if I was a betting man, I'm going to say the next Halo Infinite, is probably going to have a Battle Royale mode in it. So so
it's already a game with the mode?
Well, we don't know this. I suspect it will be in there.
Okay.
Halo Infinite doesn't even have a release date.
I can't decide whether or not Halo Battle Royale would do gangbusters or go the way of Anthem, because I feel you already have all of the maneuverability in Apex Legends, and the only thing going for Halo to separate itself would be nostalgia. I don't know. This is coming from a non-Halo player.
I agree. Nothing like stands out to me initially how Halo would put a spin on it and justify itself in the Battle Royale space. I would assume that this Halo Infinite game that's coming would release with like a fully fleshed out co-op campaign, all the multiplayer modes you already know and love, and it would just, in addition to all of that, have this new Battle Royale mode for people to check out as well.
Yeah, that's what it would need. Armchair CEO over here. My thing. Okay, so you know what I was going to say? Battle Royale, Call of Duty Zombies. Because I like the Call of Duty Zombies. So what if you just had 99 people instead of 4? That would be fun, right? But then I realized what makes Battle Royale fun. And it's killing other people. Be it shooting them in Fortnite or getting them killed in Tetris. So you couldn't, it wouldn't be fun for you guys just to be killing zombies and then the last person alive wins. So I think if they ever did come up with like a Battle Royale zombies, because that's like PvE, player versus enemy.
Environment,
enemy, yeah. It needs to be PvP. So let's just do a civilization. Just have 99 players. Obviously make it go really fast. Like it would probably actually have to be real-time strategy rather than turn-based. or like synchronous turn-based. No, you need to be real time. I think real-time strategy battle royale might be the way to go, and have like the force field. You know, the force field that closes in on you.
Yeah.
Just have it actually be just your borders, like your country's borders, and sort of have them, like, if you're producing more culture, economy, production, science, whatever it may be, use some sort of algorithm and just treat it like, you know, the game agar.io.
I don't.
You're the dot that, and if you're a bigger dot, you can eat smaller dots. You should just play it while we're podcasting, but have it go that way, and just sort of simplify the mechanics of Civilization so that I still feel like I'm playing it, but instead of, you know, taking out Gandhi in the medieval era, I just took out the child across the street because he didn't spec into crossbows fast enough. Suck it, loser. Does that make sense?
Right.
And then every game ends with like the final 10 in the atomic era. Like modern era. It basically becomes XCOM. Is this dead on arrival? Chair CEO me.
It's so hard to say. If I was the CEO in my armchair, I would have never given Tetris 99 the green light. But that just shows that I could be very wrong.
I'll take it. I don't know where else to go.
I don't think we need to go anywhere else. I think we did a great job answering Nate's questions.
We should, that last one we should actually revisit just because we could strike gold.
Sure, you can revisit it all you want. I'm sticking with Halo.
All right. Did we do it?
Yeah, we did it. That was episode 11. And
check to see if Apex is already at 100 million.
Yeah, instead of 50 days, it was 50 minutes.
Yikes.
Please write us an email just like Nathan did at mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com. I'll start being more active on Twitter pretty soon. You can see all those cool active tweets I'm about to make. You can follow us at mobiustubespod. And that'll just about do it for this week's episode. Any final thoughts, Heath?
I will respond to those tweets and get the hype going.
You are a good hype man, so I appreciate that. All right. Thank you for listening, and have a good week.
Bye, everybody.